Hey guys, it's Miss Johnson and I'm here to bring you our lesson video for Unit 2 Notes 3, which is solving systems of equation. Now we have a couple of different methods of solving systems of equations, and one we've already talked about, which is graphing. We did that in Notes 1 and Notes 2. Today we're going to talk about using elimination. I'm going to split this video into a couple of different parts, so just be aware of that. So let's just refer back to solving systems of equations. Now here's the problem. When we have a system of equations, we know by now that we have two equations with two variables. We cannot solve two equations with two variables. It's not possible. We can't do it that way. So what we have to do instead is we need to make one equation with one variable somehow. Somehow we're going to be manipulating these equations so that we only have one equation with one variable, which means we have to take two equations and we have to combine them somehow. So we're going to be combining equations and we're going to manipulate it so that one of the variables drops out. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples of just doing this algebraically. So we've already solved these things graphically. Now we're going to solve them algebraically. So number one, I have x plus 2y is equal to 10 and negative x minus y is equal to negative 6. So those are my two equations. I need them to be 1. So if I look at these two equations and I combine the two, meaning I add them together, if I just straight add these equations, that means I'm adding the like terms. I'm adding the x terms, I'm adding the y terms, and I'm even adding the constants. And it's nice because they're all lined up. I have x over x, I have y over y, I have equal sign over equal sign, I have constant over constant. So when I add down, I end up with x minus x, or in other words, 1 minus 1, because those are my coefficients, dropping out, which is 0x. Then I have 2y minus y, which is 1y, is equal to 10 minus 6, which is 4. Well, that's just, I don't need the 0x. That can go away. That's just the same thing as saying 1y is equal to 4, and then I would solve for y. So what I did here is I got my equation to be one equation with one variable. Okay, after I combined these two, my x term dropped out and I had one equation with one variable. Now I can solve it. I divide by 1, which doesn't really change anything, and I have y is equal to 4. The beauty of this is once you have that y is equal to 4, you can plug it back into either one of the originals. So I'm going to take that y equals 4 and I'm going to just plug it into the top. I have x plus 2 times 4 is equal to 10. So all I did was take my y value and plugged it in right there. So 2 times 4 is 8. That's x plus 8 equals 10. Subtract your 8. And I have x is equal to 2. So that means my solution is now x is 2, y is 4. If you think back to lesson 1, when we were graphing these systems, our solutions that were on the graph were always a point. They were an ordered pair that had an x value and a y value. Well, this is going to be the same thing. If you have two equations with two variables, you're going to have two parts to the solution. So our two parts to the solution are an x value and a y value. That should also tell you that you're going to have these two steps. This was my step that I solved for the first variable. And it doesn't matter which one you start with. It could be the x or it could be the y. And then this was my second part of solve for second. Solve for the second variable. So this is solving systems algebraically rather than graphically. Graphically is nice to use, but it doesn't always work out pretty. Sometimes we've got some funky decimals that we've got to graph and our lines don't get straight and they don't line up well, and it's just not always the most practical way to do it. So now let's take a look at number 2. So I have, again, x terms lined up, y terms lined up, equal signs lined up, constants lined up. So I'm going to go ahead and combine these. When I combine these, I have 2 minus 3, which is negative 1x, and I have positive 1y minus 1y, which drops out and gives me 0y. And then my equal sign stays there. 4 minus 8 is negative 4. Well, we all know that 0y doesn't carry any weight. It doesn't mean anything to us. We don't need it. So I have negative 1x is equal to negative 4. And there's my one equation with one variable. Now I can solve for x. I know what to do here.